is Aza, I'm 20 years old, and this year I was diagnosed with aggressive desmoid fibromatosis. Aggressive desmoid fibromatosis is also referred to as a desmoid tumor, and it is a tumor that grows in the soft tissues of your body. So in my case, mine is growing in my shoulder and chest wall tissue, but they can occur in your abdomen or your chest or your neck. Kind of anywhere you have tissues in your body, you can get a desmoid tumor. They are very rare, and they make up 0.03% of all diagnosed tumors. I tend to focus more on my journey post-diagnosis than pre-diagnosis, but I figured that it's a pretty interesting story, so this is my story. In 2021, I was a senior in high school, and I was one of the drum majors for our marching band. I would notice that when I would conduct, there would be some pain that would shoot down my right arm, and it kind of felt like my nerve was being shocked. I attributed this to improper movement and tried to fix it with some posture work, but not a lot changed. It didn't affect much, it just kind of made it a little more painful to do my job, but I assumed that a lot of people had pain like that, and I just kept moving forward. Towards the end of my senior year, my pain got a lot worse, and I was waking up once a month with excruciating pain that turned into once a week, that turned into every day. My parents chalked it up to my anxiousness about my move to college, and because I had had physical pain that had manifested from anxiety before, I agreed with them. It wasn't until the spring semester of my freshman year that I started to put together the pieces and know that something was really wrong. So I requested that my doctor send a referral to a neurologist so I could see if maybe it was my nerves that were the problem. My neurologist was a story on his own, but he requested that I have an EMG done, which is a conductivity test of your nerves, where they hook you up to a bunch of pieces of metal and shock your nerves and then stick needles in you, which, as you can imagine, not very fun. I actually wasn't able to make it through the test because it was so painful, and I had a panic attack about it in the office, and the technician walked back in and basically told me to check myself out because she wasn't even going to try to continue the test. This was really emotionally damaging for me because in my mind, I was the reason that I wasn't figuring out what was wrong with me because I couldn't do the medical tests necessary to find anything out. And I remember sitting in the parking lot after that test sobbing for almost an hour because I was so afraid that I was just gonna have to be in pain for my entire life. After the failed EMG, I had an MRI and an X-ray, and both showed no abnormalities for my spine and my shoulder. As frustrating as that was, there wasn't a lot I could do about it, so I just kept living. The summer before my sophomore year, I started physical therapy because I noticed that my shoulder blade was kind of sticking out of my back a little. He attributed this to a rotator cuff injury or something in the muscles between my shoulder. So I started strengthening those muscles, and while I did get stronger, I noticed that the pain didn't really go away. I left that physical therapist because I had to go back to school, and then I started with a pain management doctor. I don't entirely know what his title was, but he was really helpful. He noticed while doing a physical exam that the tissue around my shoulder was really unhealthy. I don't entirely understand what unhealthy meant in those terms, but we started doing some more strengthening exercises and some pressure work to kind of convince the tissue to start healing itself. In between physical therapy sessions, I noticed one day that my right armpit was a lot more swollen than my left one. I went to an urgent care doctor who felt around the area and told me that there was nothing there. At this point, I'm at the end of the fall semester of my sophomore year, and I am deep in my depression and anxiety. I was miserable trying to live every day in excruciating amounts of pain with little to no relief. I went back to my doctor in January and requested a new neurologist because my nerves still felt really painful, and I was assuming that even though I couldn't have the EMG done, that something really was wrong. She said she sent the request, and I waited a couple weeks and I didn't hear back, and by this time, I had to move back to college after the Christmas break. On the first day of the spring semester, I tried to do one full day of classes and even stayed after to work a little bit, before deciding that I needed to go to the emergency room. Before I went to the emergency room, I did call to check the status of my referral request for a neurologist, and they very lovingly told me that my doctor didn't actually send it to a neurologist. She sent it to some other doctor. So I was still no closer than I was at the beginning of the month, or at the beginning of 2021 when my pain started. I really didn't think I could survive any longer like that, so I did make the choice to go to the emergency room that night and have something done. Surprise, surprise, there's a giant tumor in there. I remember that night I was with my boyfriend who drove me to the ER, and we kind of just looked at each other and went, "So you mean to tell me that the lump in my arm actually was something? Okay, I wasn't making it up. I gotcha." There was a bit of time between finding the tumor and getting my current diagnosis, where I had an incorrect diagnosis of soft tissue sarcoma, which is a malignant cancer that grows in the soft tissues of your body, similar to a desmoid tumor. That's why I very cutesily called my channel Not Quite Cancer, because for a little bit, I did have cancer. It wasn't until March that my biopsy results came back to me after having been sent out for review, that I actually found out what I had. So that's kind of the 2-year gap pre-finding the tumor. Now it is June, so it's been almost half a year of having, or knowing that I have a giant tumor in my chest, and I am on treatment. I'm taking a drug called Ogsiveo, which is relatively new. It's FDA approved in November. I don't really know how it works or what it does, but I think it's working. The last scans I had showed a little bit of shrinkage from the tumor, which was really good news. I don't know if there's a moral to my story, but I spent a lot of time with a wrong diagnosis. A lot of times. Every time I would be diagnosed with something, it would be contradicted almost a month later, or the treatment that I was prescribed for one thing didn't actually help it, because, surprise, it wasn't that thing. I'm really lucky to be where I am right now, and slowly being able to see myself get stronger and healthier and more mentally stable has been a really humbling experience, and it has taught me to listen to what I have to say about me, because I know my body better than anyone else does, and when all those doctors told me nothing was wrong, guess what? They were wrong. While I'm sure I still have a long journey ahead of me with treatment and healing, I'm really grateful to be where I am right now, and the girl that I was 3 years ago really needs a hug, and I wish that I could give one to her and let her know that everything will be okay, and even though it's so hard right now, you are a strong person and you can get through anything that the world throws at you. So I'm really grateful for my life and my friends and my family and my doctors and my educators and for you. So thank you for watching my story.